Welcome to another Sunday Superversive Livestream. I'm your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and today we're going to discuss Top 10 Anime Dead Mothers. Number 10. Anthony, how are you doing today?
As you know, Ben, I have never had a bad day in my life.
There's a saying that a Protestant pastor once had, where if you asked him how he was doing, he'd go, "I'm saved," and then just kind of leave it at that. It's like, yeah, all right.
Uh, it's also worth noting that we should have a guest today if she can get her microphone issues fixed. Miss
Yep.
Caroline Furlong,
Yep.
who is a frequent guest of the show.
A very good guest. Fantastic work every time. Hmm.
But she has mic issues, so hopefully she'll be joining in not long.
The classic maneuver.
She
Well,
realized
hmm,
that it was not going to be a pleasant time and just ran, probably.
right. Well, I was expecting to do other things today, so yeah, that's how it is. Anyway, so
So, Ben, moms, what's your opinion of them?
they're nice, I guess.
Pro or con?
I guess when it comes down to things, I'd have to say con. Honestly, they're just like they're good for starting a hero's journey.
Shocking, controversial answers here from
Well,
Superversive.
our guest was supposed to be here. It makes me sad. But in all seriousness, I'm of course very pro motherhood. Otherwise, how else would I, be here today? As I assume are you, because unless it's kind of like how how did I see Family Guy make fun of Italians? You just kind of burst out of a pot of spaghetti, fully formed, already going, hey, gabagool.
That is extremely accurate, so
Yeah, yeah.
no argument.
Well,
Uh,
hmm,
yeah, as far as anime goes, since you mentioned anime moms and stuff like that,
right. Top
uh,
10 dead anime mothers. Yes, yes.
top 10 dead anime mothers. Well, I could give you number one already if you want to spoil it.
What?
You should know.
Uh,
She'll guess it.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood?
Exactly.
There we go. How is that
Trisha.
spoilers?
How's that? It's spoilers for the end of our list.
Oh,
You
okay.
already skipped number one.
Number one.
Trisha Elric. She's a good mom.
Yeah.
Uh, so here's what
Kind
we
of
know
ruined
about
it
her
by
from
dying.
kind of. What a bitch. Uh, so here's what we know about her from the show. I have sometimes seen people criticize her characterization, actually, which I think is kind of dumb. As if, like, your children aren't going to remember their very nice mother as being very nice. But
Right.
uh, besides that, this is what we know about her. She marries Hohenheim, who is a very interesting character. Uh, and Hohenheim has to leave to go and try and save the world from whatever the villain of the show is going to do. He figures out that the villain is going to be up to something, so he's the only one who can prevent it. So he is forced to leave, and Trisha takes this information like a trooper, and she protects her boys from it. She doesn't tell them. Yeah, you could argue that she made mistakes in not explaining what was going on, although it's unclear that she fully understood what was going on. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
by the time that she dies, her children are so traumatized by her death that they literally try to break a law of nature to bring her back to life.
A rule of
So,
nature.
in a way, you could say she's the villain of the show. No, no, I'm kidding. Uh, Yeah, actually, there is. Let's think more seriously for a second. There is interesting stuff you could say about motherhood and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yeah.
That's Trisha Elric and more Azumi Curtis, right?
Yeah.
So Azumi Curtis's whole character is based around her being a mother. Uh, the fact that her child dies and she breaks the taboo to try and bring her child back to life. So the way that she treats the Elric brothers, I've seen people criticize as borderline abusive, which I think misses several points here. The first point to remember is that the person that she is treating like this are the Elric brothers, who are two boys who she knows can and will take it. Right? It's context dependent who they are.
But also it's for a different purpose. They also have immense power that may or may not,
yes.
require training.
Right. Well, the Elric brothers are already geniuses by the time that they meet Azumi, right?
Right.
I'm pretty sure, anyway, that they were already pretty good alchemists even before they met Azumi. Now, in Brotherhood, there is a little bit of missing context that was actually in the original Full Metal Alchemist anime/manga. So the brothers, in their training with Azumi, are sent to an island and told to fend for themselves. In Brotherhood, this is just seen as sort of like Azumi just kind of leaves them there and then checks and crosses her fingers that they're not dead. This is actually not what happens in the manga and the original anime. She sends somebody there to watch them, but like in hiding.
Right.
Which I think helped the scene a little bit, to be honest with you. I think that was not a good change. But with that said, the general intention of the scene remains. Like, I think what you need to remember about the way that Azumi treats the Elric brothers is that, like you said, these are extremely powerful people who she needs to teach to control it, and also not to make the mistakes she does, and she fails, right? Which she straight up says. She admits it herself that she fails in what she was trying to do, partially because she was too afraid and ashamed of her own mistakes to warn the boys about it. If she had, they probably wouldn't have done it. At the very least, maybe they would have.
Wait, were they training with her before the alchemy event with their mother?
Yes, and we know this because Al had his body.
Oh, I never picked up on that.
So they have a scene in Brotherhood anyway. I can't remember if this was in the original. We'll talk about Brotherhood specifically. In Brotherhood, when they meet up with Azumi again, they're lying to her. They tell her that Al is just wearing the suit of armor, and Azumi, in the middle of like their meal, tells them like, cut the shit. Like, who are you trying to kid here?
Right. I gotcha.
So, it's actually a really, really good scene. It's a very moving scene, although this version of it, again, I can't recall if it's in both versions of the show. Whichever version it was in.
Is there a single bad scene in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood to you?
Is there a single bad scene? Yes, actually.
Good.
But that's that's off topic. Talking about the scene when they were when they're talking with Azumi later, she starts fighting them and basically beating the shit out of them because she's like so that they're lying to her and that they broke the taboo and that they won't tell her, and then she expels them. So Azumi does see the boys as her children. She says this explicitly later. And the boys definitely see Azumi as something, at least, of a mother figure, though they refer to her as either sensei or teacher. And Caroline is here. Hello, Caroline.
Sorry, there was some slight mic issues. I had to work them out.
Awesome. Well,
not a problem. We're discussing Azumi Curtis.
She's a good one to start with.
Yep. So what's your top 10?
I'm discussing that.
Yes.
I am defending her from some criticisms that I've sometimes seen leveled at her, that she is abusive, which I think is an unfair characterization, for two reasons.
Exactly.
The first being the context of her relationship with the boys, and the second being the tropes of anime, generally. For the record, I would say that if somebody treated Al and Ed the way that she did in real life, at the ages they were at in real life, that would be abusive, but this is not real life, this is an anime, and there are certain tropes associated with it. What you're supposed to get out of Izumi Curtis is that she is strict but fair. Tough, but she's tough for a reason. And the boys do not resent her for this. They fear her power, but they go to her for help. They don't fear her so much that they won't go to her for help.
Yeah, they
Caroline, you'll have to.
rightly, not
There we go.
not out of abuse. They don't fear abuse. I think that's what differentiates her style of motherhood and teaching from actual abusive motherhood. Is she's not beating them up just for the sake of beating them up, but because she enjoys it. It's to help them get stronger and become better men. So I don't see how she's actually that abusive. She's very tough and has a very good reason to be. But I wouldn't call her abusive by a long mile.
Well, I would say that if it were the real world, the way that she fights with the boys is kind of on the borderline, and also just the way that she berates them and yells at them. However, you gotta remember that you're dealing with specific tropes that are supposed to indicate certain things in shorthand. You know, that's what trope, right? And I absolutely don't think that's what you're supposed to get out of Izumi Curtis. And there's also, like, it's kind of subtle, but there's a little bit of an implication that they're terrified of seeing Izumi again, though they do go back, because she doesn't know that they've broken the taboo.
Yeah.
And they're afraid of telling her. And they're right to be afraid of telling her, because she is not happy with them about it, and it's her fault, which she knows, at least partially. And she's, by the way, completely right to think that, because she should have warned them, and she didn't. And she to be fair to her, this isn't like a huge criticism of her. She does admit it, right? She takes responsibility for it. She says, yeah, I messed up, I should have warned you. I failed as a teacher. Which is not wrong, but in terms of them seeing her, like, it's kind of subtle, but the real fear is about what would happen is in fact what happened. It's not so much that she is going to beat them up or kill them or whatever. It's that she's not going to want
her.
Yeah, she won't want to have anything to do with them anymore. Which in fact almost happens until Sig comes back and says, "You're missing the subtext of what she's saying. She's telling you that she's no longer your teacher, which means you just ask her for help. And she might grant it to you because, she's essentially your mother at this point, right?"
Yeah.
And there's a very nice scene later where she meets with Hohenheim, and you see her real feelings about Ed and Al when Hohenheim thanks her for essentially raising Ed and Al, and her response is, "Oh no, they're fine boys." Like, her actual feelings about Ed and Al are that they're actually very good children. For all of their faults and all of their flaws. I did mention that I think that it's, if she had warned them specifically about what would happen if they broke the taboo, that Ed and Al might have not done it. Though it is only a might. Ed was arrogant enough at the time that I'm not sure if that would have been enough to dissuade him.
Yeah, I think actually Ed probably would not have accepted her warning. It was in all the books that they studied. You do not do human transmutation. They still did it anyway. I don't think a personal lecture from their mother figure would have actually stopped them. It might have given Al more pause, but it would not have stopped Ed, I don't think. And anywhere Ed goes, Al will follow. If only to make sure he doesn't get killed.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, they don't fear abuse from her. They fear losing her respect, losing their relationship with her. And darn it, I'm trying to remember something you just said recently. Flew. It was
I don't know, I'm so wise with so many things.
When she says they're fine boys, she's giving them tough love. That's what I was going to say. She's giving them tough love to strengthen them. She's not abusing them. There's a very stark difference between that and actual abuse.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about Izumi Curtis is that in the story, Her identity is very much tied up to the fact that she is a mother, right? You know,
Mhm.
she calls her housewife, but even being a housewife, like, it's with that implication, not just that she is someone's wife, but that as a, you know, she keeps house
Mhm.
for her boys who are Ed and Al, and also why she broke the tattoo, which was for her child who
Mhm.
died. So her identity is very much wrapped around, you know, again, kind of subtle because they don't state it explicitly. It's in the subtext, though. It's
Mhm.
very much around the fact that Azumi Curtis is a mother. This is what's important to her. This is, in fact, where she gets her power explicitly.
Mhm.
Like, she broke the taboo that makes her, and that's what gives her that power to transmutate without creating an alchemy circle. And it is because she is a mother. And arguably, that's also why she trains so hard and learns so much, so that she can bring her son back.
Mhm.
So she's an interesting character in that sense. That it's a very, in a weird way, it's a very feminine character type. I always really liked her relationship with Sig because I think that, you know, making her such a powerful alchemist, Hiromu Arakawa had a kind of difficult job in creating a man who could match her, and I think that she kind of does it just by making Sig such a force of nature.
Yeah.
How we see him. Like, doesn't she? There's a scene where he's having a conversation with her, and Azumi like flicks a knife at him casually, and he catches it between his fingers and just continues the conversation.
I don't know that I remember that scene. I remember the flashback scene where she's running pell-mell down the street carrying the bear she killed over her shoulder,
Yeah.
and he says, "Oh wait, you dropped your bear."
Yes.
And he has it over his shoulder now to give it back to her.
It's a great scene. So, going into others, we got, you know who else from our comments section? Mega Bucket Shepherd says, you know who else is a good mom? Bulma, especially future Bulma. I do not watch and do not enjoy Dragon Ball, so I couldn't tell you. I have tried watching it before. I got bored very quickly. I did not like any of the characters, and I'm not a fan of the show.
Dang.
Not into it myself either.
What
Yeah,
about you, Ben?
the problem with Dragon Ball is that all the characters are actually like terrible outside of fighting and loving to fight. And it's like, as much as I don't want to be bigoted towards Saiyan society, no, it's pretty messed up. It's a pretty messed up society. Goku is a bad dad.
The
Goku is a bad father.
hot take machine right here.
Right, right. I'd say, let's see, what's one? Well, uh, what's a good
What a
mother?
good mom.
Well, we know a
Uh,
bad mother's Ragyo, but the
I'm gonna
Naruto
call Ragyo.
was that?
And
Ragyo.
My Hero Academia are pretty good.
I guess.
Inko and you see Bakugo's mom in like one scene.
Yeah, but she was pretty good there. She was the only one who could make him behave.
I,
She was
I
fine.
I'm surprised the dad wasn't like 20 years older just because of what he has to deal with in his family. It's like she's the one who proposed to him. You know.
So my sister has done like MHA fan fiction, which, by the way, MHA is absolutely like it practically begs for like a Children of series, which I'm sure it will get
Yes.
one day as a cat wrap.
If it got
Uh,
for Naruto.
yeah. So my sister, and I had this conversation with her. I said one day Bakugo is gonna marry someone who is either going to be just as angry as him or possibly angrier, and they're going to argue all of the time until and will always end with them passionately making out, or he's going to marry someone who is incredibly sweet and nice and is the exact opposite of him and does not get intimidated by any of his rants in any way, but is also incredibly dangerous. It's gonna
Both are
be one of the
very plausible.
yeah. Assuming you're not a Baku Deku shipper, which ooh,
Disgusting.
no.
No, 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 no.
They're underage,
Negative
you
characters.
monsters.
Yes, I don't recall if we've ever seen Luffy's mom yet, but Ace's mom was great. I have not gotten that far into One Piece. As was recently pointed out, if I read One Piece for a half hour every day, I could read. It would take me like over a year or something like that to get to the end of One Piece. So, yeah, I'm really not far. I don't know Ace's mom, and I couldn't tell you if his mom was shown yet.
Ace's mom was pretty badass in her one scene. I can't remember who. I don't think they've talked about who's Luffy's mom is. But then again, they could have talked about it, and I could have missed it because it being One Piece. Actually, I don't think they've talked about Luffy's mom at all. If I'm recalling correctly, he has like, yeah, no, I don't recall anything with it. The mothers in One Piece, Portagast Ace's mom, Portagast Rouge, I think, was pretty awesome. I'm trying to think of some other ones.
Yeah, to be honest, where I'm at.
Big Mom. Big Mom is actually a pretty good mother. Sanji's mom was pretty alright. Belmare was really awesome. Yeah, Big Mom. No, Big Mom kind of goes in and out and how much she cares about her kids, but she does raise them with family values. She's just not a great wife, and by that I mean.
Big Mom like a first villain who then becomes hot.
Who begin what?
She eventually becomes hot.
No, but she was hot back in the day. You're thinking of Alvida, who is not a mother, and hasn't shown up in a very long time.
Got it.
So, yeah, no, Big Mom's pretty cool. There's, besides Big Mom, let's see, Sanji's mother was pretty alright, but she was kind of like going along with it, but she gave Sanji kindness, which makes him better than his brothers and sister. You have not come across her yet. If you're only on Skypiea, you're like 200 chapters in. You're maybe 300.
I'm about to say, I'm like 200 chapters in. It's not that early. But it is, because it's One Piece.
Yeah, no, they don't even get into characters' backstories for a lot of these characters until like chapter 800. You noob.
I know.
The mother of the Oda's mother, the samurai lord, was his wife rather. The mother of the kid samurai king shogun. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he turns into a giant pink dragon. She had an ability to throw people ahead in time, where evil could be defeated. But Kaido's rule is law. And now the fools seek to undo Kaido's law. And anyway. Undo the future. That is Kaido.
Yeah, apparently, being quote-unquote only 200 chapters into One Piece, I really am not qualified to talk about backstories yet.
Nope.
Except in very limited way. So.
Well, actually, Nami and Chopper and Brook's backstories. Not that you've met Brook.
Well, yeah.
Is usually pretty fleshed out. Frankie's is pretty fleshed out. Nico Robbins is okay fleshed out, I guess. What?
I don't remember Brook.
He hasn't shown up yet. He doesn't show up for like 200 to 500, 300 more chapters.
Jeez, yeah. Nami is pretty fleshed out, and Nami actually has a pretty intense backstory.
She does. Belmare was a fantastic character. Arlong comes back, and it's actually not. Sorry, they go back to talk about Arlong's backstory, And it's actually pretty cool because he was like an escaped slave who basically got freaked out when Fishing Tiger got killed, and he decided to stick it to the humans. And it's like, you know what? What a bastard. But I can see it.
Let's see. Continue. Go ahead. Oh no, your microphone is malfunctioning again.
Blend was a position. Spy Time's family.
Spike's family, is Yor a good mother? I don't know. She hasn't killed her kid yet, unlike everything else in her life.
Spy X family, you said?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, I am a big fan of Spy Family, right? I was a fan of the manga. I'm not gonna say before it was cool because I very openly admit that I found it because Eyepatch Wolf mentioned it in his Shonen Jump rundown last year. So, you know, Super Eyepatch Wolf, the YouTuber, by the way, for people who don't know who I'm talking about. Anyway, he mentioned it in Shonen Jump rundown, so it absolutely was already, like, cool by the time I found it. I'm not a hipster in that sense, but I've loved Spy Family for a long time, and now it's getting an incredible, like, super high quality anime adaptation. Like, honestly, a best case scenario anime right now.
It's
so
pretty
that's
good.
great stuff. Yeah. Is Yor a good mother in Spy Family? So that's a good question. I would answer yes, definitely. So here's the thing about Spy Family that makes it such a compelling and interesting show in a lot of ways. Lloyd and Yor are actually both good people. Like, Lloyd is just a genuinely nice guy who wants to help people deep down beyond all of the spy stuff. The very reason that he's doing it, right, is for that. The reason he stays with Anya and doesn't give her back to the orphanage, which he tries to do until Anya says no. And then it kind of hits Lloyd that, oh yeah, this girl was like abandoned by everybody. No wonder she doesn't want to be abandoned by me either. Which is one of the reasons he sticks with Anya, even though Anya is like not necessarily the best person for the job. So he's a good father, and as for Yor being a good mother, so the thing about Yor is that she is a very, even though they have like similar quote unquote roles in the narrative, they're both employees of an organization that has larger and arguably noble goals. And they both are part of this family to keep up their secret identities. Yor is an extremely different character from Lloyd. So Lloyd knows what he's doing. He wants to be a spy. I'm trying to think of how to put this to really get at the difference. Like, as far as Lloyd is concerned, everything here is, even if Yor is telling the truth, there's no long-term effect, right? What were you gonna say, Ben?
Nothing.
Or Caroline?
No.
Caroline who's speaking. So there's no long-term with Yor or Anya. It's always about this mission, which, by the way, Anya is very aware of, and which is why she's trying to do a good job. Yor is different. So, for one thing, unlike Lloyd, Yor is an idiot. I'm not even, like, trying to be insulting to the character. This is canonical. It is a very big part of who she is. Right? Like, Yor is a very stupid person.
She's also an international assassin, but
yeah, she's an assassin. She works for an organization in the show called The Garden, and ostensibly you're supposed to, generally at least, believe that she is killing bad guys and is generally doing good things. Like, for example, one of her assignments later is that, like, she is protecting a woman who is trying to leave the mafia business. So, you know, when they send assassins after her, she has to, like, take them all out. So you're generally, I think, supposed to be on your side for who she kills and why she kills them. Although obviously they are setting up a showdown between Yor and Lloyd. I would actually be disappointed if that didn't happen at some point, though I am
Right.
content to let them take time.
Like
with
a
it.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, except it's the anime.
Yeah. Like, I'm content to let them take their time with it. It doesn't need to happen anytime soon. But 100%, that's where they're going with this, right? So, as far as her as a mother, though, like, she joins with the family, not for any ulterior motive, except, like, the ulterior motive is I need to keep up so the secret police don't look into me, right? Because what gets her radar pinging is that somebody says, hey, the secret police are finding single woman pretty suspicious, you know. So that's why she decides on this fake marriage. But, like, the fake marriage itself is something she's invested in for its own sake, almost, right? Like, she wants to maintain the fake family. Lloyd doesn't really care about that. Lloyd's, you know, I mean, he does. That's kind of the character arc, right? That's the whole point. Lloyd is a nice guy, and, like, the whole point of the story is that Lloyd is getting slowly enveloped into the fake family. But Yor was always like, you know, I love Anya. She's adorable. You know, I want to help Anya out. She's like, Lloyd is such a great guy. You know, he's a psychiatrist.
Right.
Which, by the way, if you're wondering,
With occasional bloodstains.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to know why Yor is a moron, she meets Lloyd getting chased by people who are like machine gunning for him. He's just like, those are my creations, and Yor does not question this. She's like, yeah, that makes sense.
I've known as psychologists. They usually try to kill me too. It's like,
Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things where, like, she's actually kind of invested in the family. Like, don't get me wrong, the reason she joined the family was to keep up appearances, but as far as she's concerned, she could do that indefinitely, right? Like, she wants to raise Anya. Raising Anya is, like, part of her goals now, and there's nothing that's stopping her from doing it, unlike Twilight. Twilight, there is no, you know, I'm sure that this will change, and that they'll come up with something by the end of the anime. This Spy Family is a feel-good story, and it should be. You know, that's like the point of the story. That's the tone of it. So I'm sure it will end in some sort of way where they can remain together in at least some capacity. But as it stands right now, Lloyd does not have plans and does not intend for this to be something that lasts for more than probably like a couple of years at most. Right? It has an explicit end date. He has an explicit motive with an explicit goal of something he will accomplish, and then he no longer needs the family.
the Sigma male grind.
What was that?
Sigma male grind. Get a family just for the connections. Abandon family when you have connections.
Lloyd as a Sigma, I'm not sure. You probably could, though. I think that you can make a case for Alpha as well.
Delta.
I don't see Delta.
Actually, no. It would be Sigma spies. So, you know, in the general idea that spies are Sigmas.
Yeah.
Or would have to by necessity.
So as far as Yor goes, though, like, you know, she doesn't have an explicit end date on the family. She doesn't have an explicit end date on, you know, staying with them. And she's grown genuinely attached to Anya. And there's nothing in her mission that preclude, you know, like, no, her boss didn't tell her, hey, don't get too attached to the kid, right? Like, that was never part of it.
It's like, if that's what you gotta do, that's what you gotta do. And he's like, yeah, all right, this one.
Yeah. So if Yor can just say, without any real issue, yeah, I love Anya. Anya's basically my daughter now, and she, you know, and nobody's really going to question that. Does she treat Anya well? Well, the running gag of the show is that Yor can't really do wifely things very well. Like, they mentioned that she can clean, and so Twilight does most of the cooking.
She's really good at cleaning. She can clean up bloodstains like no one else.
Yeah, I think it's actually like a thing that they make a point of. But anyway, like, she can't cook at all. Is one of the jokes, right? Like, Twilight does all of the cooking. But she teaches Anya how to defend herself, and she protects Anya. So in that sense, and Anya loves her for that. Explicitly loves her for that. Now there is an incredible scene, a chapter later on that I'm gonna spoil now. Anya gets a friend named Becky who's rich, and Becky gets a huge crush on Lloyd. And Anya, who can read minds, reads her mind and sees that she wants to become Lloyd's new wife. And then at first Anya's like, "Oh no way, I want my own mom." But then she sees that Becky has private chefs. And Anya's like, "Huh, maybe this could work." And she starts trying to help her, like, win over Lloyd. It is actually a hysterical chapter. I am very much looking forward to seeing it animated. But the point being that, yeah, Anya, that Yor, as far as being the mother, Yor loves Anya, and she makes that clear. And Yor protects Anya, and Yor teaches Anya how to protect herself. Yor does her best, and Yor gives Anya, she gives Anya that motherly love that she didn't have. So I would say that Yor is a good mother. She's trying her best,
She hasn't had a chance to go all mama bear yet, has she?
Not yet. Well, I don't know if it's happened in the anime actually, because I haven't seen the last couple episodes, though I've heard they're typically excellent. But not yet. However, she will.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced by the sounds of it that she will. I have to start watching that anime. So many anime, so little time. I'm trying to think over the anime that I've seen with mothers. I'm not so conversant with very many series
So there's
just
another
yet.
pretty good evil mother by the name of I can't remember the name, but the name of the anime is Flip Flappers, and the whole shtick at the end is that the mother's trying to hijack the daughter so that she can basically take care of her forever in a childlike state while hijacking her body. It's
That
pretty
sounds
amazing.
vaguely familiar.
Flip Flappers.
I've never seen it.
It's one of my favorite anime because it's absolutely one of the most imaginative things ever produced. It was it's the same group. Basically, they don't make much anime, but what they do is always high quality and vaguely girl on girl, which is always kind of the sour note for this stuff. Um, but
I'll have to give Flip Flappers a shot because it sounds interesting.
Well, it only
Unfortunately,
comes up at the end though. Sadly, just saying.
So, I have an interesting mom to bring up in terms of the discussion too. Is she a good mother or not? Toradora.
I never watched it.
Ryuji's mom a good mother?
You're just gonna have to tell us. I never watched it.
Nope.
Ben,
What?
you've never seen Toradora.
I have been very explicit about me not watching it ever so far.
I did not remember that.
No, I've said it
so
multiple times.
Toradora. Discussed before. So, I've discussed it, I think, though, with probably April.
No, you
who is
discussed it on
also
the channel.
Toradora. What was that?
You discussed it here.
Yeah, with April, I think. I'm pretty sure. So Toradora is an interesting one. It's a rom-com, obviously. We've mentioned it before. The main character, Ryuji, lives with his single mom. And she is like a nightclub waitress, which is basically, in Japan anyway, it's like a half step above a stripper. Like, she's not a stripper, but the job is only slightly more respectable.
She flirts with Japanese men for money, basically.
Yes. Exactly. So, and it's portrayed that way, kind of comically. And he is almost like the parent in their relationship. She's always sleeping during the day. She has to go out and make money at night. So he ends up taking care of her a lot of the time, which is one of the reasons he's such a responsible character. She is an interesting case because she clearly loves her son. Right? Like, and she does not mistreat him. And she also is clearly a nice person. Like, Taiga, who is the love interest, comes to the house, and she takes Taiga in with, like, absolutely no issue at all, doesn't hesitate about it or anything, right? So, in that sense, she is certainly not an abusive mother, but she's also not really a mother. She doesn't really mother Ryuji, and this leads to problems later on. When Ryuji wants to run away with Taiga, and she's trying to tell him not to, Ryuji kinda doesn't respect her enough to really listen.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like, she basically begs him, not to go. And he's like, basically like, why should I listen to you?
Yeah, it's like...
who even talk to me like this?
Right, because it's like, if he's been the responsible one, and he's been forced into that role, it does affect the power dynamics among it. Like, one of the things that people don't really appreciate, they say they do, they kind of understand it, but they don't really, is like the power of a mother over their son, her son. And it's more complex than anything else, because most mothers, even good Christian mothers, who mean the world to it, aren't as virtuous as in the universal masculine way as a son might want of his mother. Like, in the Swan Knight son, the only reason Igraine comes out as good as she does is because she's also, like, the wisest woman on Earth. And by the end of the story, not on Earth. But so, he kind of has a hand up when it comes to that stuff, and she doesn't interfere with his life like she could, and she doesn't tamp down on his masculinity like she could, which is something I think is underrepresented in this. Not in the sense of like Ryuji's mother, who more or less is a child, and Ryuji had to be the parent, which is abusive. It is, it puts her in the abusive category. Not in the sense of like she beats him, but she is.
I'm not so sure about that. So, there are some layers here.
No, there's no layers here.
Perfect.
Right. Well, he's a kid.
I would disagree, though. He's a kid, but she is raising him. Like, she is actually paying the bills. It's not like she's forcing him.
Well, so does a man who beats his wife. Like, it's not anything.
Working.
Right, but like, just because the bills are being paid doesn't mean that it's a better relationship. Like, the bills are the least important part of the relationship, honestly. And I'm speaking as somebody who has been very poor. Like, it doesn't matter how much how much the bills are being paid. It doesn't do anything for the growth and the spiritual development of the kid, even in a godless society like Japan. The point of Igraine isn't that she's perfect or anything like that. She explicitly says that she struggles with interfering with his masculine development, and she knows that it would be very easy for her to make him less of a man. And Gil is very much a man. But she could have strangled that, quote unquote, in the womb. Or in a more modern approach, she could have fed it to her pit bull because she is a loving pit mommy. No, I'm kidding. But, for the millennials among us.
I'm going to bat for Yuji's mother a little bit. I think that you're looking at it in too black and white a way of, like, it's abusive or it's not abusive. Like, she made mistakes, but I would not call her abusive. What you're seeing in...
You're mistaking active abuse for passive abuse.
I think you're putting it in too black and white of a way. She's raising Ryuji on her own. So, that's the thing. Like, the fact that she is sleeping a lot during the day, because she gets upset when she learns that Ryuji takes a second job. But she's trying to give Ryuji opportunities that she does not have.
Right, but there's...
Right, like, he sees that this is the only chance that she can... It's the only thing that she could do to help him out of the life that she's kind of been trapped in.
So yeah, sure. I'm not saying that
That's
she
not to
needs
say
to
that she
get.
hasn't. Hey,
So the thing is that I'm not discussing like obviously I don't think she hits Ryuji or anything like that. I haven't seen the show. I don't see all their personal dynamics. But the thing is that in a
yeah,
very
she doesn't.
real sense, you know, her being unable to be the parent and just being the breadwinner because she made bad choices, with who she let into her bed, isn't
Right.
something that, you know, is just wiped away. What it is that when it comes to abuse, it doesn't matter if the child's being fed. That just means that the child isn't being neglected. If Ryuji is acting like the parent, she is willingly given up the parent's role to him for her. She has forced him to have responsibilities. He was not an he could be a naturally responsible person, but to survive, he had to choose responsibility above his station. That's why there was that drama with her when she basically tried to be the parent. Well, there's no reason he should listen to her. There's no reason at all. She has not been a mother up until the time she tried to be a mother.
So I agree with this. Only, I guess what I'm saying is, I think that you're putting a lot of blame on someone who I think was trying. Now, that's not to say that there weren't mistakes made. I think that there is
Right.
some land in between
Like,
mistake,
and the dad who
practice,
isn't there is the worst of the lot. But he's just not there, and that's all we can say about
right?
the matter.
Like, and was abusive. I wouldn't call what she was doing abusive. I think that she was trying and not always succeeding and was in a tough situation. But I wouldn't say she was abusive in the context of the story. And for that matter, she doesn't just like when he decides to go, she kind of gives him the opportunity to go, but she also doesn't totally give up on, trying to help him or trying to do anything. Like, she immediately gets in touch with the grandparents. The grandparents get in touch with her. She rushes to the house. Like, there is absolutely, there's a real relationship that they form there. And even though it's not a perfect mother-son relationship, I don't think it's fair to categorize it as, oh, she was an abusive mother. I think that she was a mother who made mistakes and was stuck in a bad situation and was doing her best but probably should have done better. But that's not the same thing. It's something that Ryuji, looking back on it years later, does not need to look back on his mother and go, wow, what a terrible childhood, what a terrible woman. He could look back on her and he could go, this person loved me, this person tried their best, this person was trying to mother me, even if they didn't always succeed or do as well as they could have. And I think that's the difference.
Choices were poor, and they caused both him and her more pain than if she had made better choices. It's the sins of the mother visited on the children, just like the sins of the father. It's not necessarily sin in the strict sense, but it's your choices end up affecting not just you, they affect everybody you love, and in this case, they affected her son based on how she made her choices.
Yeah.
And that's, um, I hope I don't make any minds. I was just thinking of Star Wars. I know most people probably now are with the Disney timeline. Have either of you read any of the original Star Wars material, the expanded universe, or played any of the games?
Yes. It's very good stuff. It's
I have not.
honestly terrible that they got rid of it.
Yeah. Apparently Lucas cut it off before he sold everything to Disney, and that's why they started building their own canon. So they might have done that anyway. But the thing is, there's two mothers that I can point to right off the bat. So now that we're thinking on the subject of poor mothers, did you ever play Knights of the Old Republic?
Yes.
Okay, there was Bastila's
No.
mother. Bastila's mother was portrayed initially as abusive because that was how Bastila, she remembered that her father, who was an archaeologist and treasure hunter, was always arguing with her mother who didn't want him taking her all over the galaxy, getting into all kinds of scrapes. And one of the side quests is that you, as your character who's traveling with Bastila, who's ended up in the Jedi Order, have to go to Tatooine to find a piece of the star map. It's been a while since I played the game, darn it. I have to stop and remember that. But on Tatooine, we run into Bastila's mother, and she says that her father had a holocron, and you have to go to this Dragon's Cave and get it. Which you do, and eventually you get back and you find out that the reason why Bastila's parents were always fighting, the reason that her mother wanted a holocron is she's ill and she's dying. Her Bastila's mother is going for this great treasure to get the dragon pearl so he could pay for her treatments. And Bastila is surprised and shocked. And they reconcile if you're playing light side. If you're playing dark side, I don't like I never played dark side. The other one, and they really gave her short shrift in the movies, was Leia. Leia and Han got married in the expanded universe 5 years after Endor, and then they had twins, and then they had a third child, a second son.
Mm-hmm.
And Leia didn't actually have as much time to spend with her children in the expanded universe as Han did. Han was actually very present in his children's lives during the expanded universe. He'd bring his oldest son, Jason, all kinds of strange animals, because Jason's force ability was to talk to animals. And Jaina, his oldest child and only daughter, and Anakin, the youngest child, were both into technology and machines. So I still remember the Young Jedi Knights book, the first book in the series. Han brings, I forget what it was he got for Jason, some kind of an egg, I think, and he brought a hyperdrive for Jaina to play with. He specifically said, you can tinker with this, and she ends up putting it in a TIE fighter instead, so that she can take it for a joyride.
As you do.
But,
those wacky Jedi.
But the thing is, for the most part, in the Young Jedi Knights series and some of the other books before that, which were more oriented to adults, Leia was not necessarily very present, but the strength of the family unit was still there. It was when they started getting into, the Yuuzhan Vong arc. That was when everything started really going downhill for Star Wars. I was hoping that when Disney bought it, that would that part of the series would get erased, because that was depressing as anything.
Well, it was darker and edgier.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool, though.
It had its moments, but I was always very disappointed with the way it went with the Solo kids. Because they ended up killing those boys, which was just such a waste. I think even, I can't remember which author it was, said he hated that they killed off Anakin Solo.
Well, so Jason, I can't remember what happened to Jaina. I think she marries Baron Fell's kid, which is, he's a great guy. Could do a lot worse. But
she tried a few times, I think. She had Han's luck in reverse.
Right. But no, Jason turned evil and basically became the Emperor. Which, after the Yuuzhan Vong, nobody was complaining that much. To be fair. Then, I can't remember how Anakin died. Wait. Ben Skywalker. I can't remember how he died either.
Luke and Mara's son. No,
yes.
Ben lived. But Anakin died. Anakin died stopping the Voxin, right?
I can't remember. It's been almost a decade since I've read them. And I don't really keep a lot in my memory banks because I tend to get full, I guess. Which is why I've got a daily planner and some other things so that I can be more present and active in the Pinkertons Go stuff and get some things done on time. Which I'm sure Anthony is going to be very happy about.
Yeah, one of the odd things is that they had Jaina get kind of distant from Leia and say that, oh, you were never around, which she was president of the New Republic like 3 or 4 times, and a senator most of the time. So it's like, okay, that's not an inaccurate accusation, but
Right.
it was kind of jarring after what we got to see of them in the Young Jedi Knight series, where they were a pretty happy family.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that like changed per author and whatnot, and I'm honestly not a big fan of what Karen Travis did with the series or the community. So it's just kind of like, yeah. Like, she shows up and it's like constant division, and I don't think people really get why people get angry at her, because she tends to change things and introduce gay characters in whatever she's working on, which is fairly unacceptable.
I'm still upset that she killed Mara. Mara was my favorite.
Yeah.
Is my favorite expanded universe character.
Well, her novel in the Galaxy's Edge series actually caused a whole bunch of noise. I think I nearly got banned for that. I know somebody was reaching for their meds after some of my comments on Karen Travis, but that he's a boomer, and I can safely ignore them.
But yeah, Leia and Mara are the ones who were the most prominent mothers in the expanded universe. But there were a couple of others.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. She was in the Wraith Squad. Well, there were 2 in the Wraith Squadron books. One of them became a Jedi, and she and her husband had a couple of children.
I know
and
that
the son
Corin Horn's wife was pretty good. I cannot remember what the children did though. Probably got killed off.
Yeah, that would be Mirax Tarek, and yeah, she married Corin, and they had 2 children, Valen and Gisela. I had to remember that name. I think they got frozen in carbonite after going wacky, and then they got brought back. So yeah, but Mirax is cool. Anybody who's read the X-Wing books or hasn't read the X-Wing books, if you want to read Mirax, read those. Those are fantastic. She's amazing. Wedge got married. Wedge got married to Iella Wasiri, and they had 2 daughters. And then everything went downhill in the New Jedi Order books. Mega Buster Shepard's right. It absolutely gutted the EU.
Yeah. And it's, actually, the EU is pretty fair. The problem is with the Jaina issue and with Leia is that, yeah, I could see it. The problem is that it's one of those things that need proper foreshadowing, like
and
with
setup.
and setup. Like with the thing with like Ryuji, the reason why I'm hitting on it is because it seems to me that it's been pretty well telegraphed that if he's the responsible one, he doesn't feel the need to sort of submit to it, which I think has its own thing to it. And even though it doesn't feel like there's a lot to it, there is in the background stuff going on. If it is as Anthony says, which it probably is, he's a good judge of those characters.
I'm not saying that you're wrong about what you're saying and how it affected Ryuji. I'm saying that there's more aspects to that relationship, and I think it's unfair to judge the relationship as an abusive one. Virtually, possibly we're thinking of it in different ways, because I hear that, oh, this relationship is abusive, and I immediately think that, like, you know, that is a hell of a claim to make about any relationship. Like, you're claiming abuse. You know, you're saying that, like, what? Would it be better if you were not living with her? Or would it be better if child services came in? I would question both of those things.
I think...
For example.
Alright, so here's the thing about that. the thing with like child services, like sure, foster family, who knows how it could be. I've known some success stories in foster families. I've known some horror stories. Come see, come saw. But the thing is that abuse isn't necessarily him being beaten or whatever. It's choices being made deliberately to interfere with the relationships and dynamics, so that damage is done to the kid's psyche and normal development.
The thing, though, I think that that's too vague to be called abuse.
It's because it's a vague subject. Like it's not that.
Every person really is guilty of abuse. All parents are going to make mistakes that will hurt their children. That's just the way it goes.
Right, but it's about consistency. Does she
we're
ever? Yeah, we're fallen creatures. But the thing is that like the choices made have to be the best ones possible, not just for some sort of like.
If you're looking for the best choices possible, you're just not going to find it. I don't know any family where the parents have made always the best choices possible.
Not always the best choices possible.
I don't think that that's enough to criteria for abuse in and of itself. I think that she made mistakes is one thing. She was abusive is another thing. I would not call her abusive. Megabuster Shepherd says, I feel bad for being the only guy in chat, but nobody else is talking. We love you, Megabuster Shepherd. Never change.
Yeah, we'll go over comments later.
Tenel Ka from the Young Jedi Knight series. She was Jason's girlfriend. The one who was always tossing his bad jokes to her. We want to talk about abusive relationships. Her grandmother was terrible. Her grandmother on her father's side.
Yeah, evil
Queen
Jedi.
Mother of Apes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. That is on the Trump. That trumps the stack, I guess. Because there's a whole thing where whole book series devoted to it called The Courtship of Princess Leia, which was actually pretty good. People don't give it the credit for what it deserves, but
Yeah, that was Dave Wolverton's book. I read that a while ago. Darn it, I can't remember as much as I'd have liked. But yeah, her grandmother on her father's side was a piece of work. And let's see. Another good mom, actually, in fiction is Sophie Hatter. If you've seen Howl's Moving Castle, the movie, you know her as Sophie, but she was in the sequels to the book by Diana Wynne Jones. She and Howl get married and they have a son. I can't remember his name right off the top. Oh, I think it was Morgan.
Sadly, I didn't know there were sequels. I would have read them. I greatly enjoyed the books.
Yeah, it's Castle in the... I think it's House of Many Ways is the third one, and then there was Castle in the Air, which is something of a reimagining of Aladdin. Hang on.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there it is.
Unfortunately, I have not read them. I think that we could talk about the Howl's Moving Castle film as having an example of an incredibly bad mother.
Yeah, stepmother. Yeah, because how... Oh, flip. Yeah,
Sophie's mother in the film, stepmother? I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's not made clear in the movie, but she is her stepmother in the story. And she ends up she's neglectful. That's what. And she's not cruel. She's not actively neglectful. She's not actively abusive or anything like that. She's very focused on high society, and she's a fop. The female version of a fop. I can't remember what the term is. She's obsessed with fashion and the upper crust of society.
Dandy.
And that's close enough. But that leads to all the problem. That leads to the problem you see in the movie where she's convinced to take.
So, my thought actually was that the reason the mother was a horrible mother is that spelled her out to who was it? The evil queen, I think.
Suleiman.
Suleiman? Was it Suleiman? I don't remember.
Madam Suleiman in the movie.
Yeah, I don't remember if she sold her out to Suleiman or if she sold her out to the queen.
Yeah, she sold her out
But
to Suleiman because Suleiman had her new husband, under threat or something.
Yeah, which is a horrendous thing to do. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, you don't sell out your children. But I didn't remember in the movie that she was a stepmother. It's possible it wasn't mentioned at some point and I just forgot. I'm trying to look up the plot right now to see if they mention it. No, I don't think she is her stepmother in the movie. Unless I'm missing something. As I looked at the plot summary, it says just that she's a young milliner and eldest of 3 sisters. It doesn't mention anything about being adopted or having a stepmother or anything like that. So it might be a thing in the book, but it might have just been cut out of the movie, which actually kind of makes the relationship, the fact that she sold her out, way worse.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually, now that you mention it, I was surprised when I started reading the book and I found out that she was her stepmother, because Sophie and Letty were their father's children by his first wife, and then Martha was their 3rd sister, and she was the stepmother's daughter with their father. So, and the thing is, she's just flighty, and in the book, she's not actively abusive, but she is neglectful. Sophie ends up mothering essentially her 2 younger sisters and running the hat shop, or at least making sure that they don't go out of business because she's the one making all the hats, which helps move the story along. And let's see, but Sophie herself is a very good mother, and if you read Castle in the Air and House of Many Ways, both of which are screams, number 3 has to be the best one yet. Sophie is the POV character for Howl's Moving Castle, but you get 2 new ones, one for each of the sequels. Abdullah is the protagonist of Castle in the Air, and I think it's Charlene? I can't remember. She's the protagonist for House of Many Ways. I'm really sad that Diana Wynne Jones passed away before she figured out what the 4th book in the series was going to be. Darn it. But yeah, Sophie's a good mom. There's another one in fiction. Patricia C. Reed's The Enchanted Forest Chronicles, which is dealing with dragons, searching for dragons, talking to dragons, and no wait, talking to dragons is the 4th one. Falling on Dragons is the third. Yeah, those are in the fractured fairy tale style of storytelling, where Reed basically takes the idea that, okay, what if all the misinterpretations and sanitizations of fairy tales were real? What kind of a world would that look like? So,
I mean,
the world is.
I've read fairy tales. They're not very sanitized.
Well, no, but these are like the idea that the princess does nothing but memorize when to scream when the ogre is carrying her away, and then when the knight comes to rescue her. So Simorine is not like her 6 older sisters who are blonde and petite and faint on command and all the rest of this. She grows up to be as tall as a man. She's got jet black hair. She puts in 2 braids instead of letting it hang loose for the most part. She's interested in magic. She learns to fence, and she learns Latin. Oh, and she learns to cook. All because her regular lessons, sewing, embroidery, manners, etc., drive her nuts. And at one point, in fact, she summons her fairy godmother to say, "I'm bored out of my mind. Is there a way for me not to be a princess? So her parents try to marry her off to Prince Thorindil of Sahelm by the mountains. Now, Samorin, as we see in the later books, actually has no problem with the idea of getting married. The problem is the prince is an airhead.
I'm bored, so the prince is like, hey, I've completely forgotten what I'm doing here. And he's like slaying a dragon. It's like, what's going on?
Actually, all he can talk about is tourneys, and he can't even... He even asks her advice at one point about a sword, and she has to be the one to tell him the balance is off, because she actually knows how this works. She ends up marrying the king of the Enchanted Forest, who is much more sensible in book 2. After that, they do have a son, and she raises him to save his father, which longer story. But she's actually a really, really fun character, because she comes to appreciate being a princess as the first book goes along, when she volunteers to be a dragon's princess, because she doesn't want to marry Thorindil. But she eventually finds out, oh, those lessons in manners and how to read a room for politics and everything come in really handy when you're dealing with dragons and their politics. Because dragons prize politeness. And they prize manners. You're going to get eaten or fried otherwise. Which is one reason why they apparently kidnap princesses, because they want them to clean their caves. And keep house for them, essentially.
Yeah. Why not just get some village girls? Just kidnap a maid.
They don't have the proper breeding.
Oh. Well, they don't know how to clean either.
Although I grant you that the village girls would not have knights coming all the time to try and challenge the dragons. But that's not even getting into the wizards, who are the enemies in the whole thing.
As they should be. Incels, the lot of them. It used to be incel lore that after 60 years of being an incel, you'd gain magic powers and become a wizard. I mean, you know, it was all over 4chan back in the day.
Wait, rewind a second. What was all over 4chan?
Oh, the gag about incels and whatnot. Not actual incel, like, BS, anger, and whatnot. Just kind of the joke about it is that, you know, eventually become a wizard. If you're an incel long enough. You know, like 60 years without, you know, seeing a woman or something like that. But
so, incidentally, somebody in our chat, Megabuster Shepherd.
Hey. He's a great guy.
He mentioned earlier. He mentioned earlier Yu Yu Hakusho, and he actually mentioned Kurama's mom. So Kurama was the fox king, who was, by the way, my favorite character because he had the most interesting fights, in my opinion. They were always very cerebral and interesting because he had such an interesting power set compared to the others. Like, Hiei's power was, vague demon power. Yusuke's power was punching. Kurama's was punching, but not as well as Yusuke. And, the spirit gun. But Kurama had those plant-based powers, which always made for, like, really interesting and kind of cerebral fights, as he would, use these plants in interesting ways. And it's true that Kurama's whole storyline revolved around the fact that his mom was awesome. So, for people who don't know Yu Yu Hakusho, Kurama is one of the 4 main characters, along with Yusuke, Kuwabara, and Hiei. And Kurama's thing is that he was a fox demon, and an extremely powerful and dangerous fox demon, who was ruthless to humanity. Then one day when he went on the run, he came down to Earth and hid out with a family or specifically with a single woman who what acted as his mother, and he came to love the woman who was his mother, and because he loved this woman as his mother, he became an ally to humanity, and actually, like, of the four characters, probably the most straightforwardly moral. Oh, well, maybe Kuwabara. Scratch that. Probably the second most straightforwardly moral, Kuwabara. But Kurama is interesting because his entire motivation, everything that drives him, was all based around this mother-son relationship. And mothers do show up at other points of Yu Yu Hakusho. Yusuke himself has anime dead dad syndrome. His dad may have gone for milk, could be a businessman working in another country.
Just like Deku's dad?
Yeah, exactly. Perhaps he's at the convenience store, he's just getting cigarettes, he'll be back.
So you saw ER's Master Halo thing, right?
Yes, I did.
He kicks in the door, here's your milk, and he throws rotten milk at the YouTuber.
Anyway, so Yu Yu Hakusho is really interesting on this point. Because Yusuke does not have the main character does not have a father, but he does have a mother. Only his mother, if you want, so then here's where you want to go. Like, is she a bad person necessarily? No, but is she abusive? Here, I would say yes. And there is a major difference between her and Ryuji's mother in major differences. So for one thing, I'm pretty sure she is a drunk. I cannot recall if this is ever made explicit, but I think heavily implied that she is a drunk in Yu Yu Hakusho, Yusuke's mom.
Right.
She has absolutely no control over Yusuke. She does not even try to control Yusuke. She barely supports him. With that said, when Yusuke, one of the things that convinces Yusuke to come back, so the pilot episode of Yu Yu Hakusho is justly famous. It is an excellent first episode, really grabs you. And it is, believe it or not, they actually use the same conceit as Konosuba does, which is that Yusuke saves a child from getting killed only to have it revealed to him later. And yeah, Mega Buster Shepard says Yusuke's mom was an alcoholic. Thank you. Anyway, Yusuke saves a small child from getting killed and dies himself, only to have it revealed to him later the child would not have died anyway. Which is actually the premise of Konosuba.
Yes, it was actually
except that
funny. It was very funny.
Yes, except that Konosuba actually played it more directly for laughs. Whereas Yu Yu Hakusho, you're meant to take the sacrifice seriously. Botan, who is like the Grim Reaper, I think she's literally referred to as like a Grim Reaper, even though she's a girl who flies on flying cattle. She refers to, she kind of just mentions in passing, I had a kid who survived anyway. And then you, are you kidding me? And she's like, yeah, but we're not thinking about that. Anyway, in Yu Yu Hakusho, the first episode is that after he saves the kid, the afterlife is so surprised by what he did, they decide to give him a second chance and give him the opportunity to go back. In fact, in Yu Yu Hakusho, the original premise of the show was supposed to be that he would be doing all of these things as a ghost to gain his body back. But apparently, in manga form, it was not doing very well, so Togashi switched up the focus of the series and turned it into a more straightforward battle manga, and probably for the best, since the rules of the ghost world were pretty vague, and it was, hard to stay invested in what was going on, at least long term. Though it worked as a single arc in anime form very well. Anyway, in the anime, and in this first episode, Yusuke is told, you can have a second chance, you can go back. And Yusuke says, no. Why would I go back? Everyone hates me. Nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me. I have nothing to go back for. And Botan is like, come on, take a day. Consider it. And Yusuke goes to his own funeral. And in an awesome scene, a really, really well done scene, Yusuke is watching his funeral and he is disgusted that everybody there does in fact seem to hate him. Nobody really cares that he's dead. Kids from high school are making fun of him. And then he sees his principal gets angry at the kids and starts yelling at them and bursts into tears and blames himself for not getting through to Yusuke. And this is the first thing that happens that makes Yusuke go, oh, like there are people who were invested in me, you know, who actually wanted me to succeed. And then the second thing that starts to convince him to come back is he sees his mother, and his mother is absolutely devastated. Like, she's basically comatose to my recollection. Like, I think that she's just wailing over his body, if I recall. I don't recall exactly what it was, but when Yusuke sees his mother's reaction, he gets that second realization. It's like, oh, she might have been an alcoholic, like she had a substance abuse problem, but wow, my mother really loved me, didn't she? You know, like, maybe I was too harsh on her. You know, and then finally, he's his love interest for the show, Keiko, and she is upset at his death, and of course is what convinces him to come back. But it is interesting that Yusuke's attitude towards his mother, there are a lot of similarities between her and Ryuji's mom. Now, Ryuji's mom does not have a substance abuse problem. Her thing is that she believes that in order to give Ryuji a chance at a good life, she has to earn enough money that she could pay for school, so to do that...
Doesn't she get drunk all the time?
I don't think she's ever actually explicitly drunk. She acts kind of drunk, but she acts kind of drunk. I think the implication is that she's just tired because she works all night. Or they might be playing with the viewer a little bit, like, you know, she's just tired, but actually she's drunk. But they don't ever, they never show like beer in the house or anything like that. I think with Ryuji's mom, it's just that because she works nights, when she's, you know, whenever she's up during the day, she's always half asleep. And this gives her this vaguely drunk air, right? Like she's not entirely there. You know, and fair enough.
Sure.
But her whole thing is that she's trying, you know, she's working hard, like legitimately working hard, trying to give him an opportunity to pay for school, to do this, to do that, blah blah blah. Yusuke's mom is not doing any of that. Yusuke's mom is an alcoholic, and Yusuke's mom is barely involved in Yusuke's life. The similarities are that Yusuke kind of comes to realize, especially after seeing her at his funeral, that she had a substance abuse problem. She was an addict. You know, and this caused her to be unable to be a mother to him. But he realizes that actually she really loved him. Right?
Well, she didn't love him enough to overcome her addiction. She loved her substance abuse more.
No, she didn't. You're absolutely right. But on one hand, that's fair. On the other hand, that's not entirely fair, because if you ask her, you know, I'm sure she would say that she tried. But I agree with you. Yeah. No, I'm saying that she is actually abusive.
Okay.
Like, that is what I would say is the difference between the two. That Ryuji's mom tries and sometimes makes the wrong decisions. And not always the wrong decisions, but sometimes makes the wrong decisions. And makes mistakes because and this comes from mistakes she made earlier, and she's in the wrong man. Yusuke's mom doesn't even really try, or just try. She fails pretty badly. Mega Buster Separate says she eventually gets over it. So, this is true and not true, and I'm going to explain what I mean. In the manga, Yusuke's mom actually has a much bigger role than she has in the anime. Like, she's actually like, I believe, some sort of Yakuza boss in the manga. And in the anime, they just kind of cut her role out completely, and she's just barely there in the background. which is a little bit weird. She's actually kind of awesome in the manga, even though the manga is definitely worse than the anime overall. Oh, by the way, this is one case where the anime is 100% an improvement. Most significantly, the final arc of the manga is a total mess, and the anime massively cleans it up and streamlines it into a coherent narrative that actually works pretty well as a finale. So Yu Yu Hakusho actually ends on a pretty good note. Whereas the manga, even though this is technically all there, the manga just includes tons of retcons and complicates the lore like massively, and it's just a total cluster. It really doesn't work at all. But Yusuke's mom plays a much bigger role in the manga. She's like a Yakuza boss, and she has all this stuff going on. But yeah, she's kind of an interesting character in how she affects Yusuke. Part of it is that Yusuke's, obviously it's part of the point of the story, is that Yusuke deep down isn't really that bad of a kid. And when he sees that his mom actually loves him, this is enough to spark him to be like, maybe I judged her too harshly, maybe it's not right I'm blaming her for what is a substance abuse problem. And it's true, I'm pretty sure even in anime she does eventually get over it. On the other hand, she doesn't so much get over it because she still doesn't really have any authority over Yusuke anymore, similar to Ryushi. Even at the point where she's no longer an alcoholic and she's working and she's active in Yusuke's life, she doesn't really have any power or authority to tell Yusuke not to do something. Shut up. She doesn't really have any authority to tell Yusuke not to do anything. So Yusuke goes off on these long and extremely dangerous journeys and basically doesn't tell her about it, and she can't tell him no. Why would she tell him no? Like, why would Yusuke listen to her?
Okay.
So, in that sense, she's similar to Ryushi's mother.
So I guess, let's see, 7:30. So here's what we'll do. Caroline, you still with us?
Yes.
I want you guys to think up 3 anime mothers who have not been mentioned before that deserve didn't mess up awards. Pretty good mother, sort of thing. I will.
Not that bad award.
Right. Like, basically, it's like has to be alive, or at least not killed by the antagonist. Has to
You're really limiting my options here.
preferably be blood, but can be the mother of the love interest, who has an active role in the life. So, in other words, present, not murdered by the antagonist, and a good mother. So,
Well, she's not blood, but that would the one I'm thinking of right off the bat is Viola from Zoids, Chaotic Century. She and her love interest Rosso end up adopting an emperor.
nice.
He's the 10-year-old crown prince of the Gylos Empire, and they adopt him after kidnapping him to get revenge on the Empire for putting Rosso in prison. Now, Rosso kind of earned it, but the pretense under which they arrested him was wrong. He and Viola and their crew were hired to start a false flag attack on the Hellenic Republic forces to get a battle going at Red River, the base at Red River. And that was a key line of defense for the Hellenic Republic in the war with the Gylos Empire. So when that battle did not go as planned, and the Empire ended up withdrawing because the commander wasn't stupid, also not self-aggrandizing, and willing to get his men killed just for the glory, Rosso and Viola and their crew were up the creek without a paddle. The gang ended up splitting up, and Rosso took the fall in the heat and was kidnapped. Not kidnapped, imprisoned. So Viola and 2 members of the gang got back together to bust him out of prison, but that was not good enough. They couldn't leave it at that. They had to get revenge. Well, the elderly emperor had just died. His 10-year-old grandson had declared a ceasefire a few episodes before this in order to bring about the start of peace talks that they would have probably continued after his coronation. Unknown to the prince and Rosso and Viola, the regent wants him dead so that he can run not only the empire, but finish the conquest of the Hellenic Republic so he can have power over the entire continent. They're two countries on the same continent. Rosso and Viola accidentally get in the way of this with their kidnapping attempts, which they manage to pull off. But in the process, they're shot at by the assassins that the regent hired to kill the prince, Rudolph. That's his name. So
So
in
what
the
makes
battle,
her a good?
there-
What makes her a good mother?
she stays by Rosso's side because Rosso's the one who ultimately comes to the decision that they're going to protect Rudolph. And Viola herself has undergone some character changes by this point, so it's not surprising that she would stay with him when he makes this decision. But when they decide they're literally not going to go for the money, they're going to protect him as best they can. Actually, in some ways, she's the one who talks Rosso around, now that I think back on it. It's been a while since I rewatched the series. But she asks him once, so who are we giving the kid to? The people who want to kill him or the people who want to protect him? And Rosso's initial response is, whoever's going to pay the most. And you can see she's uncomfortable with this idea. He's just a 10-year-old kid. And earlier in the series, we found out that she had a sister who was much younger than her and probably a little younger than Rudolph. So she's not comfortable with handing him over to those who plan to kill him. She supports Rosso fully when he decides they're going to protect him at all costs. And how did we get from there to there? Yeah.
We're trying
Because
to
she
do
has
top 3 best mothers.
Well, she's definitely in a top 3 best mothers. She gets sent ahead at one point to try and find Rudolph in her flying Zoid, and she does manage to spot him. He's been picked up by the heroes of the series. She and Rosso eventually, and I'm using air quotes, you can't see me, die defending Rudolph so that the heroes can get away with him because one of the heroes' arch enemies has been told by the regent, he's the regent's attack dog essentially, kill the prince. So Rosso and Viola end up holding this guy off, and they appear to die in the attempt. When they come back, after being rescued and treated for their injuries, we don't actually get to see her interact with Rudolph as much as Rosso does, but she's the one who sticks up for Rudolph and even tacitly and says, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" to Rosso. If she hadn't done that, he might not have come around to the decision to protect Rudolph the way he did.
Nice. So
She's the only one I can think of that matches the criteria of not being dead.
So for me, one of the better mothers in anime-dom is Senai Furukawa from Clanad. She's fantastic, tender, raised her daughter right, puts up with her husband's antics. What was that?
I watched Clanad. Which character is she the mother of? Because I watched Clanad.
Nagisa's mother. Ushio's grandmother.
Oh, yeah.
Teacher.
Yeah, actually, she's great.
Fantastic mothering. Is able to interact pretty well with the various characters around her. And in general, doesn't make a mess of things. Though I do find her interactions with everyone pretty funny. Because there's this great dynamic where it's like she makes these like out of nowhere breads that are actually pretty terrible. but everyone must agree to try them and say that they're good. Otherwise, she'll run out crying, saying that she's a burden to the bread store. It's great.
Yes, I remember that.
It's one of the better gags. All right, Anthony,
It is.
you go for one.
You are correct. Uh, yeah, let's see. So I had trouble thinking of this, honestly, so I did come up with one, though. It's not from a show, though. It is from a movie. It is Mom from Ponyo.
Yeah, I could see that.
Damn. Mom from Ponyo is good. So I literally don't remember her name. She might not even have been given a name. But she is actually a really, really good mother in the story. So, Mom from Ponyo, the main thing she does make mistakes, like the fact that she leaves her child alone home while there is massive flooding to go and check on the old people, and that child is so traumatized by this, by the end of the movie, he's like convinced she's dead and bursts into tears. Which I suppose is a realistic response on Miyazaki's part. However, I would still call her a good mother because of the way that she actually treats Ponyo. So, Ponyo shows up at like the midpoint of the film as a human, or probably a little bit earlier than that, as a human, and she is introduced as the mom going, "Who is that?" And he's like, "This is Ponyo, Mom. This is the goldfish." And the mother sees this, and then she blinks a few seconds and goes, "Life is weird and full of surprises. Let's make dinner." Which is probably the best response you could have to a situation like that.
Yep.
I think it's less that was saying, "I believe you, this is the goldfish, but I have no clue how you're here or this is possible. But clearly you are here. So I should probably feed you so you don't die."
Still got Ponyo.
What was that?
I gotta watch Ponyo.
It's probably Miyazaki's weakest movie, which means it's quite good. I would call it his weakest film. It's probably, on the other hand, his best looking film. It is an absolutely gorgeous movie, like really, really next level beautiful. There is a scene in the movie where there's a rising flood, and they're driving up a hill as the flood is like basically chasing them up the hill, and Ponyo is following them by running on the waves next to their car as it rides up the hill, and the water is turning into watery fish that are carrying her as they climb into their house. It's just an unbelievable sequence. Is definitely, though, story-wise, it's just a pretty weak adaptation of The Little Mermaid.
So,
it's not one of his better films.
So, Caroline, do you have another one for us? Doesn't have to be anime.
In case, I think I'll go with Mrs. Incredible.
Oh, she's a pretty good choice. I think we've probably all seen that one. But what's really stands out for you?
Probably the way she handles the kids at dinner time and Bob. It's very realistic, very believable. The other good time is when she's sitting with them around the campfire, and she gives them the masks and says, "These are your most precious identity. Your identity is your most precious belonging. These aren't the villains that you see in the Saturday morning cartoons. They will not hesitate to hurt you," which is a tacit statement of, if they try to hurt you, you hurt them back with everything you've got. You protect yourselves. And of course, you can't get over Bob Throw Me when she gets tossed up to rescue Jack Jack.
Yep. That is a pretty good choice. Helen Pars is absolutely a great choice for a mother. for, let's see here, looking at my collection. Man, I need to watch more of these. I'm disgusted by how much I have these trappings, this stuff. Actually, I should have thought about this better. You ever wonder about the fact that there's like no parents in The Princess Bride? I've thought about that.
Well, they're in the book.
That's not true. Inigo Montoya's father
What?
is
Who's
a
dead?
big part of the story. He is dead, yes.
Yes.
Well, in the book, Buttercup's parents are actually alive.
Do they have an opinion about all this?
Not really.
That's about right. I guess. Let's see here. Man. Oh. Okay, I've got one that technically counts. Big Mom from Metal Gear Solid 3.
I have never played that game.
She taught all her boys how to fight. She gave birth on a battlefield, giving herself cesarean section. What a woman. Fantastic. Killed by the protagonist of the game, so it counts. One of the saddest scenes in video gaming history, probably.
Probably. Wow.
Probably. But no, it's more of a found family mother than a literal mother, as it's certainly implied that everyone who interacts with her basically view her as an amazing mother. And even though she's very literally not most of these grizzled veterans' mothers, though she is Revolver Ocelot's mother, but, you know, sometimes, no matter how a mom tries to raise her son, you know, they're just rotten from the beginning. A vessel born for destruction. Possessed by somebody else's ghost arm. Who knows? This is all references to Metal Gear. I don't expect anyone who hasn't spent 100 hours on the series to get.
Yeah, Metal Gear, to be honest with you, I don't really know why I haven't played it, because in theory it should be a game that I like, but every time I see it being played, and, you know, I have seen it played, it always just like, no, I don't think I would like that.
To be fair, Metal Gear Solid... What?
It sounds good.
It is. I will say that Metal Gear, unlike a lot of things, does have a very balanced male-female treatment that a lot of things don't. Usually it'll fall one side of the good parent is either the mother or the father, and it's very obvious who the favorite parent of the developer is. Like, and if anyone's questioning the things I've been saying throughout this live stream, we'll do this again on Father's Day, and we'll have some fun with it. But yay. But yeah. So what's your second one, Anthony?
That is an awesome question, and I have thought very long and hard about it, and I do not have an answer.
You don't have an answer. You can't look over through your mental mind palace at all the things you've watched, all the things you've listened to. You can't even flatter me and say Jack's mom. Look at you.
Jack's mom. Oh. Is she though?
No.
I mean...
She is absolutely not a good mother. She's a loyal mother, but that's completely different.
Alright, here's one for you. Rachel's mom in the Rachel Griffin series by El Jaji Lamplighter.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's a good choice.
All right, Caroline, one more. Give us one more.
I'm gonna have to go with Mary Jane Watson Parker. I still haven't managed to read the MC2 yet, but if one of the moms in Marvel or one of the women in Marvel who would make a great mom, it would be MJ. Don't touch my kids. Doesn't matter if she has no powers or anything like that. You do not want to cross MJ Watson on a good day, threaten her children, threaten Peter Parker. You're going to get creamed. I don't care what powers you have. And I don't care whatever the heck Marvel has just done with her, making a two-way with her and Peter and somebody else so that she has 2 kids with some other guy. Sorry, no, that's not MJ.
That is pretty disgusting. That is pretty
MJ,
disgusting.
MJ MC2, MJ is my 3rd pick.
Outstanding. Let's see here. I'm going to dive deep. No, I'll bring that up at the end. I'll dive deep into the mental mind palaces, into the hosts of literature, because we must delve deep to find the living mother in anime literature. Cinematography. We must go.
Alright, yeah, let's keep it in.
No.
Do it, Dan.
Do it. All right, anime. The only problem with like watching so much anime, it all blends together.
No, I want to pull out my list if I can find it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm also pulling out a list, and I'm just gonna scroll through until I find one. I'm starting with the numbers, and I'm just gonna go down until I find an anime that has a good mother in it. Because there's some of them that just like have terrible mothers, like Excel World. All the parents in that kind of suck, and it's like, why aren't you like helping anyone out? I don't know.
Uh,
Oh my goodness.
Make a suggestion. Totoro?
In Totoro, the mother, she was almost killed by the greatest villain of all, cancer.
There's also Kanta's mom.
Tuberculosis.
What was that?
It was tuberculosis, not cancer.
Oh, okay. So she had the writer's disease. I wish I was cool enough to have tuberculosis. Oh my goodness. Alright, I'm past the A's. And I'm sure that I missed some others, but just not in ones that I've seen. Baki, the grappler, had a mother who was all over the place because she was half in love with the fact that her husband could snap her like a twig, but also didn't want her son to die because her husband snapped him like a twig, because that's what he was on about. Um, let's see here. Some of these just don't have any mothers. Like, what's wrong with this stuff? What's wrong with anime? What is wrong with anime?
Great question.
Like, I'm
Probably
almost
because
done with the
like
bees.
Japanese people. That's a
That's
big
true.
weakness.
The Japanese are the problem with anime. I knew it.
You know, there was something when you guys were talking about anime that was trying to jog my memory.
Black Clover.
Yeah, watching it. Silva, she's the actress in the series. Her mom was pretty cool. Now her mom's dead, but her mom was a demon. Same time she was carrying Noelle, and she could have. Her mom was a very fantastic fighter, so they didn't. I think she was approached by young nieces, Noelle's cousin at the time. Said, why don't you go back to the battlefield? And she pointed out very poetically, there's nothing to a mother in the life of her child because she was definitely going to have a baby. And oldest son actually have his younger siblings, and he himself mistreated Noelle because in his case, he was actually worried she'd end up succumbing to the curse too and getting killed. And he loves Noelle very much, but her older sibling see her as useless and torment her unnecessarily. Just so, but it's pretty cool that the option to get out of jail free, essentially, and said, "Nope, I am not killing this baby. I am having it, even if it kills me, which it's going to."
Amazing. I love it. That's a fantastic
I want
mother.
to throw out here to Ben specifically. I'm looking at our anime tier list, which I found,
Yes.
and it is unreal how many of these just don't have parents.
Right? Like, I'm halfway through the D's. Like, there's something...
I'm in the S tier, and I'm like, there's nothing. Denu Coil has the parents in it, but they're good parents, but they're also just not a large part of the story.
Right.
Yeah, it's worse than a
Like-
Disney movie.
I mean, I guess it's nice that Denu Coil has, like, the parents are there, and they're canonically good parents, but they're just not really a big part of the story. Like, I don't know that much about them, except that they care, you
Right.
know, which I guess is by default good, but
Right.
I don't know.
Oh, there's flip-flappers. That mother. Well, she wanted the best for him.
Soul Lulico had a very bad mother.
She was a
Oh,
good
she-
mother in the end.
She was.
She was just a
By the way,
pirate queen.
Soul Lulico was awesome. I love that show.
It's a fantastic show. And I'm
It is.
almost done with the F's. Come on.
Yeah.
Because, like, in reality, if I wasn't limiting myself to anime, I would have said the white Mrs. Carter from the High House series. She is a pretty good mother and mate to her husband, Anderson Carter, the main character.
Oh, that reminds me, Harriet Winslow from Family Matters. She was a great mom.
I don't remember her, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, but
There's no parents in Log Horizon, no parents in Konosuba, no parents in Gurren Lagann. We got Raggio in Kill la Kill.
Oh, yeah.
Not
It's Mother
good.
of the Year, yeah.
Mother of the
Yeah.
Century.
Mother. She just wants her children to be well dressed. What's wrong with that?
Exactly. All
Yeah,
she
and then there
wanted
was- Mrs. Cunningham from Happy Days. Sorry.
No, you're right. Mega Buster Shepherd says, I'll end on a high note. Mary, banish trigger.
Yep,
You
alright.
can't beat that choice.
To be fair, even I, a Protestant, can't argue with that. I'm just trying to find an anime in alphabetical order that has a decent mother in it. That I've also seen.
Are any of the mothers in JoJo good?
Uh,
Poor mom.
yeah, the Part 4 mom was pretty good.
Part
Jolene's
3
mom
mom.
wasn't great.
She wasn't bad.
She wasn't
I
bad.
mean, Totoro left her, so it's hard to say.
Joseph.
What was the name of Jotoro's mom?
Holly Joestar?
I'm wrong.
It was Holly.
Holly?
Yeah.
Yeah, Holly. Oh, wait, what am I saying? Great Moms, Part 8. It's manga. Though, it's not anime, but close enough.
Wait, who was... Well, so Holly Joestar was the great mom. But-
Joestar Kira.
Holly Joestar Kira. But who was the other good mom?
Great Mom.
Fantastic mom.
Probably my favorite scene in the manga is the scene where he makes his speech. Our boy,
Yes.
you know, Gappy. So, for people who don't know what I'm talking about, in Part 8, the whole plot line revolves around the fact that our main character, Gappy, is actually a combination of two dead people. Josuke and Yoshikage. Josuke Higashita, right? Or, no, Josefumi Kujo, I'm sorry. Josefumi Kujo and Yoshikage Kira. And his name is Josuke Higashita. So, he's trying to figure out like all about his past, and he finds the mother of Yoshikage Kira in the hospital, and she has memory problems, and she's like losing a battle to a disease, basically. But she manages to become lucid long enough to basically save his life, because even though he is not the same person as Yoshikage Kira, she recognizes him as, no, like, you're my son. I know that you're my son. I could tell who you are. And in my favorite scene, probably, in the Part 8 manga, Josuke gives this amazing speech where he says, my name's Josuke Higashita. I don't remember who I am. I don't remember my family. I don't know how I got here. But I do know one thing. You are my mother, and I will protect you. And it's actually like a really heartwarming scene in context, which becomes a little bit hollow when he fails miserably by the end of the story. But
he does his best.
He tried.
She didn't die. I mean, his sister died, and a whole bunch of other people died.
It's possible Part 9 will be about finding a cure for her. That was actually like the loose end that I was most unhappy about, because that was my favorite scene. Like that,
right.
I thought that was, he have to resolve that somehow, and they just kind of don't. Like, it just is never resolved. She's gonna die. So, it's possible that the Part 9, when it does come out, will deal with this.
Right.
In fact, in a lot of people's theories. And I sort of hope it does. Although, on one hand, I hope it does, and on the other hand, I don't really like this plot line. Like, generally, I'm not a fan of the Rock King and stuff, so
yeah.
I hope they go in another dimension. But I think he could do good stuff with it.
I think he will.
Now I'm just extrapolating. So yeah, there's my guy. He's technically not an anime yet, though in a decade it might be.
I didn't want to.
I do mean a decade.
Yeah, probably.
What was that?
So I'm kind of giving up because I decided to jump to the dubs and start over again, just because just in case it'll jog my memory. But the only one I had in the back of my mind, and I didn't want to use it because it's by the same people as Clanad, but the mother from Canon, who is the mom of the blue-haired girl, because she herself also has blue hair, is a pretty good mother, and she kind of just accepts people into the house without worrying about it, including a fox spirit, the spirit of a comatose girl, her clearly traumatized nephew, and other people besides. And it's like she wakes up to find the fox spirit and the dude fighting over food, and basically it's like, oh, you guys must have been hungry, huh? And they're like trying to kill each other. And she's like, I guess I'll just cook you some food then. Get this taken care of. I can actually find a few with like good dads who are surviving and following it, or people who are like dads, because it's like, even in video games, like pulling up my extreme list of video games, that is way too big. Yeah, I'd say the mothers are getting a pretty bad rap. I mean, look at Bruce Wayne's mom. She just died. Like, what's wrong with her? Getting murdered like that.
I just remembered I just remembered the sorceress and Prince Adam's mom from He-Man. They were pretty good mothers. You didn't get to see He-Man's mom very often in either series, but the sorceress was pretty good. She gave up her daughter to make sure she'd be safe.
Nice. That is pretty good. I think I'm just gonna jump through my.
There were a couple of shows where like the mom is there, but just and is known as kind of like, yeah, she's probably a good mom, but she's barely a part of it. Like Haikyuu is in this category. Shihaya Furu is in this category.
Yeah,
Speed
I
Racer.
never saw those. Speed Racer, yeah. Speed Racer's parents were pretty good.
Yeah,
To be
and
honest,
you never got to see
ahead.
Mom race so much. No, you never got to see Mom raise her much. But she was there. That was the important thing.
By the way, Ben,
What?
I want you to know I went into my Google Drive to find the anime tier list and typed in anime, and sitting in front of me is the full text of I am gay and gained a harem full of girls in another world, and it sucks. Still there.
Beautiful. Amazing. So, for context, a friend of mine told me to write up a 30,000 word light novel for a contest. I don't even think he applied it to. Uh, but I did it just before my 10,000 mile trip around the U.S. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. But basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. Uh,
You know, low-key, it actually is extremely funny.
it
Though
is
it's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not good, but it is very funny.
no, it's very funny. He absolutely hates on his female harem. He wants a male harem, but he can't get one. He has moments where um,
The title.
the
The
title
title,
alone.
bro.
Yes, he has a moment where like there's this extremely feminine, like ultra feminine member of his harem who's just kind of there, and every time he touches her, he like spazzes out and starts vomiting because she's just that feminine. It's like his
Freaking
kryptonite.
girls.
Ugh. And whatnot. The lolly character abuses him, and he abuses her in return. Because she absolutely hates him because she understands how unnatural he is. Like at no point do I uh, not have the fact that this guy is a homosexual and evil show up. All right, I found one with a good mother, Bayonetta. Bayonetta is a good mother to her kid, who may also be herself. It counts. I'm ending this. We're done. We're done. I can't find anything else. It's just
Did you
Tifa.
write any moms into the harem uh, story?
no, but I should have. I should have. I should have.
I
Just
am
so.
gay and doing a harem full of girls in another world, and it sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you,
But
guys, who
reading it.
stuck around for so long. Mega Buster Shepherd is a man of culture. Brave Pitbull crosses dimensions. Tamala, small elf child. Absolutely, but it was an elf, so we didn't care. Thank you for coming
Wait,
along.
I'm sorry. Can I read the opening line?
Okay.
Imagine me standing before a full-length mirror, naked, but for my glory at my crotch. Yes, this finely sculpted piece of work is me, Freaky Sam. As a man, I am flawless. I work out hard for well-defined abs and narrow waist. You simply do not know the hours I spend fawning over the men who work out with me. Good work, Wakaru-san. Great exercise, Hisoka-san. See you next time, Tomoya-chu. Yes, I would have seen them all next time. Yes, indeed. And I will stop there.
Because it gets worse. It's like a roller coaster to hell. Caroline, how are you doing? You're stuck with this. How are you doing, though?
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to think. Yeah, you were. Tifa is another one actually. Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy VII. She moms Marlene, Barrett's daughter, very well. And then when she and Cloud are together the in Advent Children and the tie-in media, she moms a little boy that they adopt too, and they take care of him in addition to Marlene. His name's Denzel. She's very good mom. She gets to be Mama Bear in Advent Children, and then there was in the
That's
same
better than people
universe.
give it credit for.
Yeah, Aerith's moms, her birth mother and her adopted mother are also very good.
Very nice. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm sure you will join us again sometime in the future, and we shall have many more conversations. Thank you all for listening in, and have a wonderful evening.